10 years ago, my life changed, and it changed in a split second. And it changed one night. And I'm going to tell you my story of how that happened. So, we come from a company called Seaton Matters. Myself and my two brothers own and manage the company. Our mother is an occupational therapist, and she's seen the need for this type of seating for nursing and care environments, and she couldn't get it anywhere. So myself and my two brothers seen an opportunity to take our mother's idea to the world. But operationally, 7 or 8 years into setting up the business, we were an absolute mess. Like the worst company I've ever seen. Orders were going out late. Staff turnover was really high. The factory was a mess. It was dark. It was dirty. It was disorganized. There was no organization. Whichever customer shouted the loudest got their product first. Our supplies, our inventory was so disorganized. We ran out of stuff all the time. We had a big, huge area in the factory for unfinished product waiting on supplies coming in, missing parts. We couldn't finish the product because somebody was off and all the knowledge was in their head. It was like something you would see in a third world country. If you can imagine the worst company or the worst factory you've ever seen, we were that company times 10. And it was a really stressful time for me because I was on the operations, manufacturing side of the business. And every day was a real struggle. It really was. I was running around the factory, jumping on and off the forklift, in the office, sorting out orders, on the phone to customers that were complaining about why their delivery was late. I wasn't eating correctly. I wasn't sleeping. It was a really dark time in my life. And even now, standing here thinking about it and talking about it, I almost get emotional. And I went home one night and I got my iPad at my kitchen table and I got it out and I started to type in really generic terms into YouTube, like how to manage a factory, how to manage production, even how to run a business, because we hadn't a clue what we were doing. And I came across this guy called Paul Akers, an American businessman, and he was talking about this thing called lean. And I'd never heard of it before. I didn't really know what it was. But something that night sparked, it just lit a fire in me that has never went out. He was talking about this thing called the lean manufacturing, where everybody in the company would go around making incremental improvements to make their job better. His factory was quiet and clean. There was absolute order, 2 hours from order to delivery. Like early time was 8 weeks. The way his company ran was just incredible. And I almost thought it was too good to be true. But I went in the next day, he gathered a few people around and I said, I found this thing called lean and we're going to do this. And this is going to change our business. And it absolutely did. So the first thing I had to do was find out, is this thing all edited for YouTube? Could it really be that good? So we got on a plane, went to see Paul Akers, stayed at his home, went to see his factory, spent 4 days in his factory. And on the plane journey on the way back, I was even more excited. It was better than YouTube. And I said, we're going to do this. So over the next few months and years, I went to Japan 5 times, went to Germany, I went to America to find out what this lean thing was all about and brought it all back to our company. But we struggled. Because if anybody in the room has heard of lean manufacturing before, or if you go home after this and Google lean manufacturing, It's typically seen as a very complicated theoretical business philosophy that stemmed from the Japanese. And I seen all this stuff, value stream mapping and process mapping, drawing all these charts and graphs, and I just tuned out. I just couldn't get it. And when I tried to talk to our people in that language, they didn't get it. So I decided there and then that for lean to take root in our organization, for lean to really work, we needed to make it simple. And that's exactly what we done. We made lean simple. Or in other words, we converted it into Limavady language. We took all this complicated theory from the Japanese and simplified it. And I've got a video here, and this video, some of you may have seen it on our YouTube channel, but this is a lady called Beverly. And Beverly is in our sewing department at our company. And Beverly is absolutely amazing. And in this video, it shows how Beverly has made 100 improvements to a single sewing machine. Now, if Beverly can make 100 improvements to a sewing machine, think of the size of your factory. Think of the size of your company. How much potential is there to eliminate waste? How much potential is there to totally transform your business? So let's have a look at Beverly. Our entire team are empowered to make small incremental improvements every single day to improve their job. We're in the sewing department where Beverly has made over 100 improvements to a single sewing machine. So with Beverly, I've just noticed some of the improvements that you've made here, Beverly. So the first thing I've noticed is this cutout for all the material to fall down into the bin down below. Got a surround around here which didn't come with the machine for bigger parts that's being sewed.
This has to be my favourite improvement, Ryan. Before we got this here added onto the machine, the bigger pieces of material kept falling off and onto the floor, and we're a clinical company, so everything has to be kept spotless and clean.
We've got a holder down here for the zip. We've got the scissor holders over here. The screwdriver has a place, even down to the detail of these tiny, tiny bobbins. A lot of companies can't get their head around, that we stop and improve every morning.
No, and once you start doing improvements, they just keep coming. One improvement adds to another improvement, to another improvement. It never stops. You'll always find an improvement.
There's an extra spill holder because the original machine only came with 2 spills. We've got a box around the back, and I take it, Beverly, this is for all the material that falls in.
Yeah.
So I've even noticed this guide, so it guides the material into the box. There's an area number up here, so 0.5, 0.5, and then every single tool around this machine is labelled 0.5, 0.5. Beverly, you've been here for 12 years.
Yeah.
What's the difference from before and now?
Absolutely immense difference. There was so much wasted time and motion running around the factory looking for things. I definitely would not go back to that way of living again. Yeah. It has made my life so much simpler.
So the Velcro is on the side of the machine, the 2 different types. We've got the elastic down here. This is a crumb trail, and this tells us exactly where to restock the specific material. To be really honest, what did you think about lean at the start?
There was always questions and the thought in your head, with these improvements and the morning meetings, how are we going to get time to get our targets in? But with all the improvements we made here at our machines, it has added up and it has actually taken over from the waste.
So I'm sure this drawer is absolutely perfect, no doubt. Look at that. The scissors has a place, the pen has a place, the clippers, the tape measure, the screwdriver, right down to every single detail. There's even a place for the water bottle. There's a standard work for a thread color chart. There's a standard work for exactly where the labels go on every single cushion. There's a seat width cutting chart over here. There's a place for all the labels, a place for the zip. Even this zip holder for all the zip sliders. There's a standard work on here, right where you ask the question. It's not in a file, it's not in somebody's head. All the information is right where you need it. So I think the key message here is that I didn't do any of the improvements that we've just looked at. Beverly done all the improvements herself. And I think that's the key to creating a vibrant, lean culture, is where every single person is empowered to see waste and make small incremental changes to improve their job. 100 improvements to a single sewing machine. It's just absolutely incredible. The best definition I've ever heard of lean, because I'm always looking for simple ways to talk about stuff. the best definition I've ever heard is that lean is the accumulation of small ideas from everyone. And that's really all lean is. The accumulation of small ideas from everyone. And people often ask us, why are we so successful at lean? What is it that we're doing that nobody else is doing? And we talk about something called the lean deal. So if I went back to our company after finding out about lean and said, okay, we're going to do all these improvements. You're going to make all these process improvements to help the customer. To me, there isn't enough motivation there. The people on the factory floor, us on operations, we don't see the customer. We don't know who the customer is. There's no connection there with the customer. Similarly, if I said, okay, go ahead and make all these lean improvements to help the company to increase profitability, to, increase the return of investment for the shareholders, there isn't enough motivation for people to do anything. So we talk about the lean deal. And the lean deal is that if you make your job easier, we'll give you the time, we'll give you the resources. You've got the autonomy to make your job easier. No 2 days are going to be the same. You're going to get to challenge yourself. You're going to get to run experiments. If you do that and make your job easier, guess what? Lead time gets better. Quality gets better. Health and safety is better. The customer experience is better. And if we do that, the company gets better as a byproduct. And if the company gets better, we can keep investing more time in developing our people. And this, if there's one takeaway from this talk, this is why we've been successful at lean. Because when people hear the word lean, they think that's something we have to do to get more work done with less, or that's to help the company, but it's actually not when you really internalize what lean is all about. So here's the big question. You're maybe sitting here thinking, I love it, I get it, I would like our company to be full of Beverleys, but how do we do that? And the big question is, how do you develop lean? The answer is that you don't. You actually don't. And you might be surprised to hear me saying that. You don't start lean or do lean. You develop a culture which implements lean. You develop a culture of continuous improvement. So what does culture mean? Culture is basically group habit. How a certain group of people think, act and behave. So at our company, all we're doing is doing improvements. We're just improving the processes all the time. And productivity and efficiency goes through the roof. And that's exactly where I seen a massive gap. Because if lean's the most important thing, and building a culture is the most important thing to get lean off the ground, well then why has nobody written a book on how to develop a culture? There's just no books out there. So my book was launched 2 months ago. It's going crazy, being sold all over the world. And it's a 12-step process for how to develop a lean culture. So I'd been taking notes and keeping diaries and documenting what I've done and we have done over the last 10 years. And it's all in the book. So I would have loved to have taken the factory here to show you today, but that's obviously not possible. But I would like to invite you to come to Limavady. It's only 53 minutes from here. We timed it this morning. And see for yourself that this stuff actually works. You don't have to go to Japan. You don't have to go to America. You don't have to go to Germany. It's actually closer than you think. So I'd like to invite you to Limavady, more commonly now known as Leanavady. Somebody coined it Leanavady lately. But we've had over 2,000 visitors. Just think about that number for a minute. 2,000 people have been through our factory. It's just incredible. So would encourage you to book a Lean Made Simple tour. If you would like to take this information further, and if this has sparked something that you'd like to find out more about, we've got a YouTube channel. There's over almost 300 videos with over 1.2 million views now on YouTube. Companies all over the world are getting on board with this. Because chances are, if you're not doing lean, you're being left behind. We've also got the Lean Made Simple podcast. I started the podcast last year. And again, it went crazy. The need for this type of information. I was just speaking to Aidan there before this, and we were saying that the amount of companies that are getting on board with lean, even in the last 6 months, is absolutely crazy. So the podcast went to number 5 in the UK Business Podcast. It's just, lean is on the rise. And chances are, if you're not doing it, your competitors are. So I wanted to finish with this. And I decided to add this slide in kind of last minute before I sent the slides across to Maria yesterday. But just to give this photograph a bit of context. So this photograph is taken in Japan. I was in Japan about a month ago. I got the opportunity to take my son, James, here as well. So James got to go with me to Japan. The guy on the right is the former vice president of Lexus, Mr. Amazawa. The guy in the middle is the president of Mifune, a tier 2 supplier to Toyota. And these two guys are mentors, personal mentors of mine, and they're coaching me, and I've been in touch with them every week or every couple of weeks. And I've been in Japan 5 times, and I was just there a month ago, as I said. But on the way home on the plane, I kind of came up with a goal or a vision and something that I can see happening. And I thought, no better time to share this vision. And this is the first time I've shared this publicly. Haven't mentioned it on a podcast or a video. This is not in the book. And this is a big goal, and you might be surprised when you see it. But every time I go to Japan, I just get so excited and so energized and have so many ideas to bring back. They're the ultimate example of efficiency, of productivity, of developing their people, of serving the customer. They're the manufacturing giants of the world. They absolutely are. And my vision that I would like to share right now is that I think we could make Ireland the next Japan. There's absolutely no reason that we can't do that. Ireland, north and south, the amount of companies that are doing lean since we started 10 years ago is incredible. And I can just see plane loads of people flying here to visit Northern Ireland and the south of Ireland on lean study missions to learn from us. We can be the centre of excellence. We can be the world-class example of how operational excellence is done. And I think it's very possible. And potentially there's people in this room that can help to achieve that. So I've actually got a gift, and I've never done this before. At the back of the room on the way out, I've actually got a free book for every single person here. It's like the Late Late Show. So it is. So on your way out, collect the book, have a read at it. If it inspires you, reach out, because I am so passionate about this information. I've seen the transformation in our company and loads of other companies, and it's much simpler and easier than you think. Thank you.